In the Grand Hall of the Galactic High Court, the lawsuit against Earth was filed with theatrical precision.
12 sovereign members of the Concord Trade Authority charge the human species with unfair commercial practices. Your wine, your coffee, your engineered pollinators. These biological exports have destabilized our markets for too long.
The filing was broadcast live across a dozen systems. The alien anchor's smirk said everything. On Earth, the UN Legal Council received the notification in stunned silence. Class A action, number 8814. Defendants, Earth and its authorized representatives. Charges, unfair commercial practices in biological commodity export. Penalty, unlimited compensatory damages.
We expect a settlement within days. Earth's primitive legal systems are no match for Concord jurisprudence. This is not a trial. This is a formality.
Human diplomats scrambled. There was no contingency for a galactic class action suit. Wine, coffee, bees, Earth's lifelines to the stars were now weapons turned against it.
Send your best. They will beg for terms before the first hearing.
The recommendation from every legal advisor was the same. Hire the Galactic Titans. The cabinet listened, and then chose a boutique firm in Manhattan. A 22-person operation called Kessler, Park, and Stephen.
Sir, the call just came. The UN selected us, for the biggest case in human history.
They read our blog.
The charges are 12 counts, every major export. Wine, coffee, bees. They're claiming predatory pricing and biological contamination.
Contamination. We've been selling wine for 20 years.
They want unlimited damages, and they're broadcasting it everywhere.
The alien media pounced within the hour.
A 22-person human firm? This is a joke. Earth mocks the court with its desperation.
They think we're a joke.
In that cramped Manhattan conference room, Jeffrey Park began to read the Concord Charter. Not as a defendant, but as a student of fairness. Jeffrey did not sleep. In his home library, he read the Concord Charter line by line, making notes in a leather journal.
Forget the commodity cases. Pull every decision where the court's own jurisdiction was challenged.
Jurisdiction, sir, that borders on questioning the court itself. The plaintiffs are suing over bees.
It's all connected.
Elena didn't understand, but she knew better than to argue. She dove into the alien law database, pulling rulings that questioned the court's very legitimacy.
They have no defense. The human lawyer is lost in archives. We will win by default.
In the archive room, Elena cross-referenced case after case. Holographic screens sprouted like weeds, the air thick with blue light and the smell of old paper.
4,700 cases, some going back to the court's founding.
Then we have work to do.
Vakar's daily taunts became background noise. Jeffrey kept reading, a faint smile playing beneath the skull paint, as if the galaxy's greatest court were a puzzle he'd solved before. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of coffee and alien legalese. The firm's conference room became a war room, every surface covered in case notes.
Jeffrey, I found a pattern. 312 cases, same charges, different signatories, all dismissed.
On what grounds?
Reciprocity. The treaty requires any remedy applied to Earth be applied equally to every signatory. The court dodged it every time.
Reciprocal liability. The whole thing is a trap they built for themselves. Start drafting. Section 1. We conditionally accept every charge. Section 2. List those 312 precedents.
The plaintiffs, sensing delay, filed an emergency motion for summary judgment. The court set a pre-trial hearing in 14 days.
We're not ready. The brief is barely an outline.
It will be exactly what it needs to be.
That night, Jeffrey stared at the charter's preamble, tracing a single word with his finger: reciprocity. A fuse lit 14 decades ago. 2 weeks later, the Galactic High Court buzzed with anticipation. The pre-trial hearing began.
Pursuant to Article 17, the defense moves to dismiss. This court lacks jurisdiction over Earth's trade.
Motion denied. Our jurisdiction covers all signatory commerce.
But Jeffrey caught the fractional pause before all. Margaret glanced at her colleagues.
She knows the exceptions exist. They've been dodging them for a century.
He's testing them.
After the hearing, the Manhattan office went into overdrive. The brief swelled into a colossus.
Jeffrey, we're at 8,000 pages. The sheer volume could trigger a procedural rejection.
Then make it undeniable. Every precedent, every clause they ever feared to enforce.
The rattled plaintiffs filed yet another emergency objection, but the court refused to intervene. The final hearing date remained set, 2 weeks before the hearing. The plaintiffs filed a desperate motion to cap the defense response at 1,000 pages, calling it procedural terrorism.
This human filibuster mocks the court. No species has ever filed more than 2,000 pages. Limit them.
The 3-judge panel rejected the motion within the hour. The court's rules had no page limit.
They wrote the rules in an age of brevity. We live in an age of detail.
It's done. 14,000 pages, every precedent cataloged, every clause cross-referenced.
The brief was transmitted 48 hours before the hearing, its sheer volume crashing the court's receiving buffers. The alien media erupted. 14,000 pages of human insanity ran the headline on 6 major feeds.
14,000. This is an assault on jurisprudence. They've buried us in their own garbage.
In a private chamber, the plaintiff coalition leaders argued over damage control. Some demanded immediate settlement talks. But there would be no settlement. The hearing was 48 hours away, and Jeffrey Park had just handed the galaxy a mirror. The alien legal team spent the first night trying to parse the dense human legalese.
They admit the charges. Look, Section 1. Earth accepts all counts conditionally. What game is this?
He scrolled. 312 precedents, each a mirror image of the current suit. All dismissed. His confusion deepened.
He is giving away the case. No sane defense does that.
Across the galaxy, Jeffrey and Elena finished their final review in the quiet of the Manhattan office.
Vekar must be losing his mind. We admitted everything.
Conditionally. The condition is the point. They built their system on assumptions we stress-tested a decade ago. Now they'll see.
Elena nodded, trusting the man who'd turned a kitchen table lesson into a legal doctrine. 48 hours later, the hearing chamber filled. The galaxy held its breath. Vekar rose with the confidence of a predator, his opening dripping with certainty.
Earth's unfair exports have undermined the Concord for decades. This court will finally force them to account.
Jeffrey stood, adjusting his glasses with a calm that unsettled the room.
The defense conditionally accepts all 12 charges.
He then read from the treaty. Any remedy applied to one signatory shall be applied to all. The words hung like a blade.
In 312 previous cases, this court dismissed identical charges between signatories. Precedent demands reciprocity.
Vekar's 3 eyes widened as the calculation became clear. If Earth paid, the 12 plaintiffs would pay each other simultaneously, bankrupting the court. Margaret's face drained of color. The other 2 judges looked at her, visibly sweating. In the gallery, Elena gripped her notepad, heart pounding. The murmur grew into a roar. Margaret's voice cracked. This court will recess for deliberation. The courtroom erupted into chaos as the judges filed out. Vekar slammed a 3-fingered fist onto the plaintiff table.
This is absurd. He cannot weaponize our own treaty against us.
Across the aisle, Jeffrey stood motionless in the corridor, reviewing a page of his notes as if nothing had happened.
He's not waiting. He's calculating their entire deliberation, mapping every exit before they found the door.
In the judges' chambers, Margaret slumped into her chair, the founding charter quivering in her 4-fingered hand.
The human is correct. The reciprocity clause leaves no room for discretion. Rule against Earth, and this court disintegrates.
The other 2 judges exchanged panicked glances. The ancient chamber reeked of cold stone and institutional fear. Outside, media drones broadcast the recess live. In a corridor, Elena approached Jeffrey, her eyes wide with something like awe.
They're terrified, aren't they?
Good. Let them sit with it.
9 hours crawled past. In the judge's chambers, the founding charter was dissected line by line, its parchment trembling under a century of ignored contradictions.
They read the fine print, not as guidance, but as a weapon. No other species has ever done that.
Ancient case records were pulled, dust motes swirling. Margaret stared into the abyss of her own court's collapsing logic.
They built their system on fairness as an abstract ideal. Our grandmothers taught us fairness as a concrete rule. If it cuts one way, it cuts both.
That's what this whole thing is. A grandmother's logic?
The simplest truths are the hardest to escape.
Finally, the gavel sounded through the stone chamber. The courtroom reconvened, 1,000 eyes fixed on the bench. Margaret looked exhausted, her robes too heavy. But there was a grim resolution in her eyes.
This court will now hear final arguments from both sides.
Jeffrey rose, adjusting his gold cufflinks with deliberate calm. The entire galaxy held its breath.
The Charter demands reciprocal liability, but this court has never enforced it universally. That is not a loophole. It is a fracture at the foundation.
He projected a holographic graph, Earth paying, arrows ricocheting among the 12 plaintiffs until the court's own treasury bled zero.
Enforce this treaty as written, and every trade agreement ever made under it is void. The Concord itself has no legal basis.
Objection. The defense seeks to destroy the institution itself.
Margaret did not rule on the objection. She simply stared, her four-fingered hand covering her mouth.
I am not arguing Earth's innocence. I am arguing this court's. You can rule against Earth only by ruling against your own founding text. There is no lawful path to that outcome.
This is monstrous. You cannot rewrite our entire system from a defendant's podium.
Margaret's gaze moved to the founding charter, her mind visibly calculating the only possible outcome. Jeffrey adjusted his glasses and rested his case with a quiet finality that was more terrifying than any threat. For a long moment, Margaret did not move. The weight of the charter's contradiction pressed against her. There was only one path that preserved the court.
This court will recess one final time.
When she returned, the silence was absolute. Her face was a mask of ritual control.
This court dismisses Class A action 8,814 with prejudice and issues a humble apology to the species of Earth.
The word apology blazed on the holographic displays in a dozen scripts.
This is a betrayal. The Concord will not stand for this.
We won. We actually won.
Jeffrey simply nodded once and closed his leather portfolio with a soft snap. The plaintiff delegation sat frozen, Vekar's 3 eyes blinking in disbelief. Earth's victory was not a verdict of innocence. It was a verdict of rules obeyed and a system forced to remember its own word. Even before the echo of the gavel faded, Margaret leaned forward, her voice trembling with purpose.
This court must prevent recurrence. We request the Human Defense Council assist in drafting amendments to the Trade Code.
On what basis?
We offer full commission, independent confirmation, a seat at the table. Help us fix what you exposed.
The alien media feeds spluttered. The narrative had reversed. Earth was now the court's rebuilder.
3 conditions. Reciprocity becomes mandatory, implied waivers abolished, and a fairness review board with human seats established.
Agreed. Forthwith?
Margaret extended a glowing data slate. Jeffrey took it, and for the first time, a human held the keys to galactic law. In that instant, the story the galaxy told itself pivoted. Humans were no longer defendants. They were architects.
40 days. I'll need my associate and a lot of coffee.
For 3 relentless weeks, the Manhattan office became a crucible. Jeffrey and Elena translated common law fairness into the alien trade code.
We're not just patching a leak. We're installing a whole new foundation of fairness.
The Fairness Accords, reciprocity as default, no implied waivers, and a review board with human seats.
The 40-page document was transmitted and leaked instantly. Alien media erupted with a new narrative. Galactic legal scholars called it the most significant reframing of trade law in 140 years.
They're calling it the Park Doctrine. It's spreading through every law school in the Concord.
21 empires announced plans to adopt the Accords. Commerce ministries began rewriting their foundational codes.
They're not adopting human law. They're adopting a grandmother's common sense.
A formal signing ceremony was announced. The human architects would be given a seat at the table.
The rules are on paper. Enforcing them, that's where the real work begins.
The Great Hall of Concord filled with the leaders of 21 empires. The Fairness Accords lay on a ceremonial dais, bathed in gold light.
Today we dissolve a charter built on oversight, and we adopt one built on fairness. Fairness the humans taught us to take seriously.
Alien media broadcasts showed a fairer galaxy in 100 languages, the ceremony unfolding live. One by one, the imperial seals were etched into the glowing document by delegates from worlds that had once sued Earth. Elena accepted a platinum medal on behalf of Kessler, Park, and Stephen, her eyes shining.
Grandma's kitchen table. That's where this started.
In the back, Jeffrey stood apart, arms crossed, his skull paint a stark silhouette against the golden finery. A news feed captured his image with a single caption, "The Advocate who remade the galaxy."
They think it was me. It was a little old woman who taught me to cut both ways.
The Accords were law. 21 empires reorganized, and the galaxy began to learn a new word for fairness: reciprocity. 2 months after the Accords, a courier arrived at the modest Manhattan office with a package bearing the seal of the Galactic Bar Association. The certificate was platinum, inscribed in alien script, member in full standing, Jeffrey Park, Kessler, Park, and Stephen.
The Galactic Bar. They've never admitted a human before.
The whole firm gathered, 22 people, in the cramped conference room, a small galaxy of pride.
Bill it as a new matter client, Galaxy.
Laughter rippled across the room, the kind that comes from a shared, impossible journey. Jeffrey returned to his desk, the billing timer already counting its first 6-minute increment of the morning. The message light on his console blinked with requests from alien ministers. But he opened a routine task first. On the shelf, a faded photo of an old woman in a modest kitchen caught the morning light. The galaxy might reorganize around her principles. But here, in the quiet, the work was still the work. An alien trade minister commend for guidance on a reciprocity dispute. Jeffrey listened, noted, and billed it. A lacquered "thank you" scroll from Earth's president arrived. Jeffrey skimmed it and filed it away. A new alien client, a kelp farmer, walked in. Jeffrey met with him for 54 minutes, then invoiced promptly. Elena watched him with a faint smile. For Jeffrey, law was a craft, not a platform.
He doesn't need the galaxy's recognition. The work is enough.
At lunch, he bought a hot dog from the corner cart. The same cart as always. The billing timer clicked its 6-minute increments like a metronome of enduring routine. On his calendar, a sticky note read "Grandma's B-Day" with a little cake. He glanced at it, then opened the next file. The work continued. Mining rights disputes, interstellar contracts, small claim complaints. The beautiful smallness of the law. The galaxy had been remade. But Jeffrey Park still billed in 6-minute increments, and he always would. One evening, when the last neon light of the office had gone dark, Jeffrey was alone. He picked up the faded photograph from the corner of his desk. In the picture, his grandmother sat at her kitchen table, where she had once taught a young boy about fairness.
Fairness isn't a great big thing, Jeffrey. It's just asking, if the shoe was on the other foot, would it still fit?
He placed the photograph beside the billing timer, the two artifacts of his life, one of origin, one of discipline. A new case file flickered onto the monitor. Dispute over lunar mining rights. He opened it without hesitation.
It was never about legal theory. It was always about her.
The billing timer clicked. The photo watched. And Jeffrey Park, the man who made a galaxy's judges apologize, began his next billable minute. The Fairness Accords had reshaped a galactic economy. But the real engine was a grandmother's kitchen table logic, and somewhere in that kitchen, a memory still smiled. The timer kept counting. A month after the Accords, an alien minister stood before the Concord Assembly and invoked the Park Doctrine to justify a new trade ruling. The clip played on every news feed, the phrase now synonymous with enforced reciprocity. Elena Vasquez, now a partner, delivered a guest lecture at the Galactic Law Academy, her voice steady with conviction.
Fairness is not a lofty ideal. It is a procedural default. That is the human contribution.
Back in Manhattan, the brick facade of Kessler, Park and Stephen remained unchanged. The flickering neon sign, a quiet beacon, a new client, a small alien business owner, walked through the door carrying a trade dispute and a slim case file. Jeffrey reviewed the file, asked 3 questions, and took the case. Same billing rate as always.
Tell me about the original agreement. What did each side promise?
The cycle continued. 1 dispute, 1 resolution, 6 minutes at a time. And the timer kept counting. Night fell on Manhattan. Rain silvering the streets into mirrors of fractured neon. The sign of Kessler, Park and Stephen flickered, its blue and white letters steadying above the wet sidewalk. In the puddled reflection, the name shimmered like a promise, a small firm that had demanded the galaxy keep its word. Beside the door, a new brass plaque caught the light. Galactic Bar Association member. The rain fell harder, but the sign glowed through it, unfazed. Through a 3rd-floor window, a desk lamp still burned. The timer still counted. But this story was no longer confined to that room. It lived in a kitchen memory, warm and fragrant. The old woman at the table, flour on her hands, explaining fairness to a boy who would one day wield it as a weapon of peace. And somewhere in that kitchen far away, a grandmother smiled. The neon sign glowed on. The rain whispered, and the galaxy turned a little fairer. The rain ceased, leaving the streets washed clean. The neon sign of Kessler, Park, and Stephen glowing brighter than ever. Inside, the billing timer had paused for the night. But the firm's legacy had already etched itself into galactic law. In 100 systems, new trade courts opened, their benches staffed with judges who understood that fairness was not an ideal, but a rule. On Earth, a young law student read about the case in a holographic textbook, her eyes lighting up at the mention of a grandmother's kitchen table logic. The galaxy had not become perfect, but it had become a little more honest, a little more reciprocal. And in a Manhattan office, a photograph of a smiling old woman sat beside a silent timer, 2 artifacts of a revolution. The neon sign outside continued to flicker, a constant in a changed universe. Somewhere, a grandmother's memory still smiled, her simple lesson now the law of 1,000 worlds. Jeffrey Park would wake in a few hours, pour coffee, and open another case file, billing in 6-minute increments, as always. And the galaxy, just a little fairer, turned on. In the quiet of a Manhattan dawn, the office of Kessler, Park, and Stephen stirred to life once more. Jeffrey Park arrived with a cup of black coffee, the timer on his desk already glowing, ready to tally another day in 6-minute increments.
He glanced at the photograph on the shelf, his grandmother, flower-dusted, forever explaining fairness, and allowed himself a small, private smile.
The calendar showed a new appointment, an interstellar shipping dispute, mundane and necessary. Far away, in the grand halls of the Concord, treaties were now written with plainly stated reciprocity clauses, a quiet revolution in legalese that needed no fanfare. The Galactic Bar Association plaque gleamed on the door, but inside, the work remained the same. 1 client, 1 case, 1 principle. The kitchen table logic had become the law of a galaxy, not through conquest, but through sheer, stubborn fairness. And as dusk fell, the neon sign of Kessler, Park, and Stephen flickered on, a small beacon against the infinite dark. It did not promise victory. It promised that someone somewhere would read the fine print and hold the universe to its word. The timer ticked on. The galaxy, a little fairer, turned, and Jeffrey Park began his next billable minute.